following is an NBC special presentation. This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast or a news documentary.
May 12, 1986, dawn breaks over Lake Guntersville in rural Alabama.
Wanda?
In a lakefront house, a woman attempts to awaken her niece, Wanda Jean Mays, a 26-year-old girl who was a house guest.
Wanda!
At the same time, only a few hundred yards away, two fishermen discovered an empty canoe floating in the chilly water. In the canoe, there are bloodstains, and the blood was Wanda Jean's. The empty canoe is one of dozens of contradictory clues in the case of Wanda Jean Mays. A year later, she is still missing. Tonight, we will examine 5 unsolved mysteries, 2 stories for which we have recreated the actual events and for which someone watching tonight may have a vital clue. Join me. You may be able to help solve a mystery. Six-year-old Wanda Jean Mays disappeared a year ago last May. Nothing in her past explains why she vanished except for 2 disquieting incidents. 3 years earlier, Wanda had been concerned about her weight, and on 2 separate occasions, her severe dieting led to anxiety attacks. She was overwhelmed with unknown fears and the desire to escape and hide. Now, this leaves the police with 2 theories. She may have had another anxiety attack and panicked, or she may have been murdered.
Looking back, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of different things that could have happened. And one of the things, of course, that has always disturbed me is that the fact that she was normal that night.
The night before she disappeared, Wanda had dinner with her parents at a local restaurant a few miles from Lake Guntersville.
She was laughing and talking, and as always, no matter where we were, I would always walk Wanda to her car. And I sensed that she maybe wanted to tell me something. And she almost did. And then she stopped. And then she looked at me, as she always did when she got ready to leave. She would whisper, "I love you." And that's the last words she spoke to me and the last time I saw her.
At 8 p.m. that evening, on her way back to her apartment, Wanda visited her aunt and uncle, Betty and Ty Dorman. They persuaded her to spend the night.
Wanda, time to get up. Wanda! Wanda!
In the morning, Betty couldn't rouse Wanda, so she called Ty to come help.
Wanda! Wanda! Wanda!
I'll get John.
Ty still couldn't open the door, so their grandson John came to help from next door.
Tipped off a little by the fact that she agreed to spend the night, which she never would do. Of course, we didn't know about her being on the diet. If I'd known about that, I might have clicked, but we didn't know she'd been dieting, which had triggered that other attack several years before. We felt really guilty because we just didn't pick up on the symptoms.
In the shell of the canoe, they discovered several traces of blood.
Yeah, there's blood in it. Both ends.
Down here on this end also.
Case in 10 years where someone just vanished.
Why would she take off her nightgown and leave it on the dock in the middle of the night? If Wanda did have an anxiety attack, what or who triggered it? And why were there bloodstains in the canoe? Did she
Actually was only spotted a few yards off of the bank.
Investigator Teal and members of the Alabama State National Guard searched the campground near the shore of the lake. There was no trace of Wanda. If she had come ashore here, dripping wet and half naked, Teal speculated she may have taken some clothes from a nearby clothesline. There is further evidence that Wanda may still be alive. At 10 o'clock that morning, a neighbor saw a tall young girl walking down Route 62, a few blocks from Lake Guntersville. Her hair was wet, as if she had just been swimming, and she was dressed in a pair of oversized baggy jeans. A day later, at a convenience store 30 miles away in Huntsville, Alabama, another eyewitness saw a girl resembling Wanda sitting in a car with two men. The girl looked scared.
It stuck in my mind because she didn't belong with them. They were very rough-looking guys, and she looked frightened. She looked like she was trying to get my attention.
10 minutes later, the eyewitness had a second, longer look at the girl who was now using a payphone. She stood face to face just a few feet away and is convinced the girl was Wanda.
I believe that she's telling the truth. I believe Wanda's alive. Jim and I pray together for Wanda every night. And I believe that God is honoring that prayer and that we will get Wanda back.
Until we have exhausted every possible means, we're going to continue to look and search and do whatever is necessary, as long as there's a dollar to do it with, and we're going to do it until we find the answer.
The police in Guntersville, Alabama, believe there is a good possibility that Wanda Jean is still alive and may be held captive. They are hoping that anyone with information about Wanda will contact them or their local law enforcement agency. In a moment, the story of John Burns, a man who got away with murder because his identity was a complete hoax.
This program is about unsolved mysteries. Whenever possible, actual family members and police officials have participated in recreating the events. What you are about to see is not a news broadcast or a news documentary.
In 1969, John Burns, a high school custodian, fell in love with Eleanor Farber, a divorced woman with 6 children. A year later, he murdered her. This is the real John Burns, pictured here with his mistress and victim Eleanor and her children. Burns allowed only 2 photographs to be taken of him in his entire life. And these photos are virtually the only information we have on this shadowy man. The murder took place at Eleanor Farber's home, a small farmhouse in rural Michigan. Incredibly, for 10 days afterwards, he hid in a barn across the road just 100 yards away. Then he disappeared forever. Over the last 17 years, the authorities have discovered that John Burns' identity was a complete fiction. John Burns vanished in 1970. Since the events leading to the murder took place 17 years ago, we have used actors to portray the real people involved. Creating an accurate portrait of Burns, however, was no easy task. On various official documents, he listed 4 totally different birth dates. And today, police are not only wondering where is the man who killed Eleanor Farber, but also just who is John Burns.
He told some people he was from Altoona, Pennsylvania. Others he told he was from Cheyenne, Wyoming. Others he told he was 1/2 Osage Indian from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Others he told he was from Colorado. I really...
Picked quite a few cherries this summer. Do you like...
He told her he was going to marry her. They made plans to get married. They made plans to buy a chicken ranch. John Burns and Eleanor Farber went to a local doctor in South Lyon for blood tests. in anticipation of getting a marriage license and getting married. Of course, that never took place.
Burns was on a date with Eleanor and had to drop by his house. This was the first time Eleanor had ever seen Anna.
Who's that lady?
That's my aunt.
Your aunt?
Uh-huh.
John wrote violent letters to Eleanor, which he slipped under her door at night. He put sugar in the gas tank of her car and twice tried to run her off the road.
What happened after he bought the shells from me, he took the shells and shot his girlfriend 3 times.
On the day of the murder, Burns saw an unfamiliar...
If he couldn't have her, he didn't want anyone else to have her either.
We saw the police car go out, and always in a small town, you're curious about what's going on. So it wasn't too long after that we heard that John had done his girlfriend in. And of course, boy, everybody was shocked. It was just absolutely, you couldn't believe it.
After the murder, Burns disappeared from sight, but not from the garage. He visited Anna's house at least twice, and on one occasion even hid in her basement and wrote her a note. Still, the police couldn't find him. It turned out that for 10 days, Burns had been hiding and speculate that he had been there for several days before the murder, stalking Eleanor. A few days after the murder, police officers searched the barn, but they did not. It was not until weeks later that investigators found Burns' hideaway. They discovered dozens of empty food cans and John Burns' confession to murder scrawled. John Burns is 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighs about 150 pounds. He has brown hair, blue eyes, and a full set of false teeth. This police composite shows what John Burns might look like today.
This is the last letter that John Burns wrote to his wife, Anna. Basically, it is a last farewell letter. You will probably never see me again, so God bless you and keep you. I'm going into another state. Maybe I can get a job. If I get work, I will send you money. Even though I was such a terrible husband, I still hold a large place in my heart for you. You were a good woman. Bye-bye now.
Anna Burns long ago moved away from South Lyon. She now lives quietly in a convalescent home and refuses to discuss the case of her former husband. Eleanor Farber's house is empty. She is buried several miles away in an unmarked grave. John Burns, it's anybody's guess where he is, or who he was, or if he's still alive.
John was always a hard worker, a survivor, and a person that could get by basically with nothing if it was necessary. And I do believe that's what's happened.
I think it's very conceivable that John Burns is still alive, and maybe even watching this TV show. He was a survivalist. He was incredibly crafty, and I think John Burns is out there somewhere.
John Burns could well be alive today in another town with another identity, hiding his past. Our next story is about an 18-year-old girl from Longview, Washington, who is searching for her past. She is the victim of amnesia.
Unsolved Mysteries continues in a moment.
Last September, this nightmare happened to an 18-year-old girl in Longview, Washington. An accident or an attack, the authorities are not sure which, left her with total and complete amnesia. It's an extremely rare disorder that reportedly cripples only 1 in 5 million. It is not only rare, it is a frightening experience in which no face is familiar, and even your own identity is a mystery.
We just need to go through and see if we can find a size or any markings or anything.
Because there were few clues to the girl's identity, Deputy Reese felt their only hope was to place an article in the Longview Daily News to see if anyone recognized this Jane Doe. That afternoon, Gloria Cook saw the picture in the newspaper and recognized it was her daughter, Kyra. She and her husband, Terry, rushed to the hospital. 24 hours had passed. After 5 days in the hospital, Kyra now dresses differently, walks differently, even speaks differently. Before the accident, friends described Kyra as being a bit on the wild side. Now, she is much calmer and more thoughtful. But she has no memory at all of once familiar people and places. The tragic incident that changed Kyra's life happened in just a brief 1-hour period. Kyra left home to have lunch with a friend and then went to the post office to mail a package to her German pen pal. The authorities believe that Kyra left the post office at about 2:15, but no one knows what happened between 2:15. Kyra was carrying a brown paper sack containing her makeup and spending money for the day. When she came to in the park, it was gone. There is a third theory. Allegedly, a local girl who looked very much like Kyra had been assaulted by a... It has been 9 months since the old Kyra ceased to exist. No one, her parents, her doctor, even Kyra herself, can take her back and fill in the 18 years that are missing from Kyra's memory. For Kyra to regain her past, authorities feel that something or someone must trigger her memory. They would like to speak with a stranger who drove Kyra to the police station that day, or anyone at all who was in the park that afternoon and may have seen something. Next, a ring of attractive young women who are drugging and mugging men in bars and nightclubs across the country. And the story of 3 women who disappeared after a dinner date with the same man. Last February, homicide detectives in Houston investigated the mysterious death of a businessman whose nude body was found in his posh condominium. Autopsy reports are inconclusive, but investigators are puzzled by a strange odor suggesting that the man was poisoned, and by the fact that he was missing his Rolex watch. Across the country, single men are being approached in bars and nightclubs by enticing, sophisticated young women. The girls drug the men and take off with thousands of dollars of property. A travel agent from Dallas woke from a drug stupor to find that he had lost more than $6,000.
This young lady's ripping the world off. Now we need to do something about it, and she's nowhere to be found.
I call them professional thieves. Others call them prostitutes.
A mayor from Texas was taken for over $25,000.
When you let down your defenses against the professional thieves, they're going to get you one way or another.
I understand it's a ring, according to the police department at Tulsa, that goes from city to city. They make a circuit.
This man was fleeced of $45,000. Using actors, we have recreated one such drugging and mugging that took place in Dallas. The victim was approached by a smartly dressed young woman named Jackie. She looked like a model. She was, in fact, a professional thief with warrants for her arrest in 5 different cities. She was drawn to her victim by his expensive jewelry.
Ooh, that's a nice bracelet you have. Such a nice place. Do you come here often?
The ideal victims for this kind of crime are married men. They are far less likely to report the crime to authorities.
Are you married?
These women flatter and charm their victims until they are completely vulnerable, and then suggest one last drink back at their hotel or homes. Jackie followed her prey 17 miles to his house. He was unaware that in her purse was a small vial filled with a powerful muscle relaxant. Used in large doses, this drug is as lethal as a loaded .44 Magnum.
Nice place you have here.
The drug which these girls use is an animal tranquilizer. When mixed with alcohol, in just a few minutes, the victims fall into a deep sleep for up to 24 hours.
I woke up laying on the floor. It was quite a sickening feeling I had as far as realizing what had just taken place, because the first thing I did was to see what time it might be. The watch was gone, my ring was gone. I reached for my billfold, it's gone. And then I just started piecing the missing parts over the night before.
He remembered seeing the girl's license plate on the drive home from the bar. The car had been rented, and Jackie's name was on the contract as Jacqueline Edmonds of San Antonio, Texas. A month later, when she returned home, Jackie was arrested.
Jacqueline Edmonds is certainly not the first suspect that we've had or been involved in. However, she is probably the first one that we have met that has been involved in a ring of girls like this, a very sophisticated type of a ring. These people got a way to fence this jewelry out to get top dollar for the jewelry and items that are taken. If credit cards are stolen, there's a way to fence those out through a market. These people have got connections.
All right, Miss Edmonds, just relax.
In the last few years, these crimes have grown simply because when they do 3 or 4 jobs, they move on to another city, another state. It makes it difficult for law enforcement to catch them. The losses and the gains on the bad guy's part are large. I think my smallest loss is probably $2,000, the largest being $450,000. That's a single victim.
The day after she was arrested, Jackie posted $250 bail and was back on the streets. Then she just disappeared. She currently has warrants for her arrest in St. Louis, Oklahoma City, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Edmonston, Missouri. She's also being investigated by the United States Secret Service. The authorities are also looking for other suspected Rolex robbers. Carol Frances Fullwood, age 27, 5 feet 3 inches tall, black hair, 110 pounds. Chantel Livero, 5 feet 4 inches tall, 100 pounds, green eyes, is wanted for robbery in Atlantic City, as is Anna Dioria, 29 years old, 5 feet 8, 130 pounds, brown eyes and brown hair. If you see any of these suspects, please call your local police.
These ladies are not doctors. They're giving a prescription drug out in whatever doses they feel is the correct amount to overdose you. Unless you enjoy being unconscious, I would certainly be cautious, let alone the fact that if I was given too much, it could be fatal.
Every year, thousands of people are reported missing. Usually, the authorities aren't overly concerned because 98% of them return within a few days, and disappearing is perfectly legal. Unless, of course, there's been a murder. Over the meal, she intended to terminate their 6-year relationship. That evening, Cynthia disappeared. Carol also intended to finish the relationship. That evening, Carol disappeared. In Las Vegas, Cynthia's dinner date was with this man, Robert Weeks. 5 years later, Robert Smith. Robert Weeks and Robert Smith are the same man. He has also disappeared. Robert Weeks is said to be pleasant and mild-mannered, but also to have a violent temper. No one is sure if his dinner companions triggered a sudden rage or if he is just simply a victim of curious circumstances. Weeks, alias Smith, is a giant void in the investigation, and the police are still searching for him. They want to ask him what happened on those 2 fateful evenings. Was Cynthia and Carol's disappearances just a tragic coincidence, or was there something more sinister? 38-year-old Cynthia Jo, when Susan hadn't heard from Cynthia, she became worried and began calling her apartment. No one picked up the phone.
Cynthia, I'm going to come over to your house.
Carol's family and friends became increasingly concerned and hired a private investigator. 2 days later, he searched her apartment.
Tell them that I did, in fact, feel that Carol was dead.
The similarities between these two cases don't end with the empty apartments. 6 days after she vanished, Cynthia's car was found in a Las Vegas hotel parking lot. A few days after Carol disappeared, her car was found in the parking lot of a San Diego hotel. Another intriguing piece of evidence is Robert Weeks' personal diary. In it were death threats on Cynthia's life. She had been dating a man named Art, and Weeks wrote, "Cynthia and Art, dead for sure. Cynthia and Art, dead. Damn you." The pattern of Robert Weeks' disappearing dinner dates takes one final twist. Since 1968, his wife, Patricia, has also been missing. She allegedly had been beaten several times by Weeks, and on April 25, 1968, she filed for divorce. A few weeks later, she disappeared. Like the others, her abandoned car was also discovered in a parking lot. Have been found. The police have not charged Weeks with murder. In each case, he claimed that dinner dates were broken and that he has no knowledge of the whereabouts of the missing women. He is, however, wanted on a warrant for unlawful flight.
If you are innocent, why do you run? Why do you hide? Why can't you stand and talk about it and give us the facts? Where were you?
Whoever he's involved with now may end up in the same situation, and it's like you don't know. He seems like a normal human being until something just happens, and I definitely think there's a pattern, and I definitely think it could happen again.
Robert Weeks is now 58 years old. He has brown eyes, brown hair, and a fondness for maroon clothes. He has used the aliases Robert Smith, Robert Downey, and Robert Hinkle, and has worked as a limousine driver, salesman, construction worker, miner, and mortician. If you have any information concerning Robert Weeks, alias Robert Smith, contact the police departments in San Diego or Las Vegas or your local law enforcement agency. Tonight we have seen 5 mysteries, each one involving ordinary people, people like you and me. It is their hope and ours that you may be the person with that one clue, that one piece of vital information that could help. Because for every mystery, there is someone somewhere who knows what happened.
Clearly and completely. That's why at NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, we cover the world with you in mind. Now stay tuned for the news on most of these NBC stations.